The cupcake appeared on the wide stone ledge outside Merrill Hall just after dawn, before the first commuter bikes rolled across the quad. A swirl of pale pink buttercream sat atop a chocolate base so dark it looked almost black, and the frosting glittered under a dusting of edible pearl. Students heading to 8 o'clock labs slowed, pulled out phones, snapped pictures. Someone eventually noticed the tiny card tucked beneath the paper liner. "You've got this. A friend." By the time Professor Halvorson's biology class started, the cupcake was gone, its wooden pedestal plate empty except for a crumb and a smear of frosting. Stories began circulating. Some swore it tasted faintly of raspberry, others of rose. Whatever the truth, it was unanimously declared the best cupcake anyone on campus had ever eaten. Across town, in the dim prep kitchen of Dawnlight Bakery, Addison Reyes watched the early news flicker on a small television perched above the industrial mixer. She'd already measured a second batch of batter, but now her gloved hands hovered midair, transfixed by a reporter's segment about the mysterious Merrill Hall cupcake. The anchor laughed, speculation bouncing between prank and guerrilla marketing. Addison's chest went tight, though not from pride. She pictured strangers analyzing her handwriting, wondered if anyone had noticed the slight tremor in the loops of the Y's, imagined someone tracing the distinctive marbled wrappers back to her favorite online seller. She forced herself to breathe in time with the mixer's whir. Nobody would look that closely. Nobody ever looked that closely at her. Addison had worked the bakery's graveyard shift for 4 years, attracted by the quiet and the solitude. She arrived at 10 p.m., mixed dough through the small hours, and left before the front doors opened. It suited a woman who avoided eye contact even with the mail carrier. Friends, what few she'd had in high school, used to invite her out, only to watch her freeze at a crowded doorway. After a panicked stint in community college, she'd retreated to the comforting logic of recipes and temperatures. 72 grams of egg, 340 degrees Fahrenheit, no uncertain small talk required. The cupcakes, however, were never on Dawnlight's official menu. They were Addison's clandestine project, a ritual that began during a winter of grinding unhappiness, when dropping out had felt like the final proof she would never belong anywhere. One night, scrolling social media, she noticed a thread of strangers exchanging compliments, tiny lifelines thrown across the void. That gave her an idea. She baked 6 lavender lemon cupcakes, boxed them, and after her shift, drove circles around campus until she dared step out. When the sunrise hit the stone fountain and birds started in the magnolia trees, she set the box down like an offering and retreated before anyone could spot her. Later, she monitored campus forums where someone posted, "Free cupcakes outside Briar Hall. Made my whole day." The swell of unexpected joy felt as though air had rushed into a collapsed lung. Last week, she'd left a batch addressed to all library marathoners, drink water. During finals, she'd scrawled, "Grades do not define you." Each time, she was too anxious to linger, yet she gleaned enough online to know the treats were devoured, photographed, shared. Nobody had traced them back to the shy night baker with noise-canceling headphones wedged under a flour-dusted hoodie. The anonymity made her brave in a way spoken kindness never did. In Livingston Hall's bustling newsroom classroom, Noah Ellison flicked through the photos on his tablet. As a sophomore journalism major, he'd pitch stories about municipal bonds and parking fee hikes, only to have his editor yawn. But a clandestine cupcake dispenser, this had people buzzing. Human interest gold, his professor agreed. Noah reread the note's tidy script and felt a prickle at the back of his neck. Whoever wrote it cared enough to do something, not just tweet about mental health, or plaster posters on bulletin boards. He decided then he would find the baker, not to unmask them in a sensational expose, but to meet the kind of person who believed sugar and encouragement could change the emotional weather of an entire campus. Noah began with the obvious ingredient sleuthing. He visited every cafe within a mile radius, bought samples, studied crumb texture, frosting density, cocoa levels. The Merrill Hall Cupcakes cake had been impossibly moist, a sign of Dutch processed cocoa and extra yolks. Only 3 bakeries in town advertised Dutch processed stock. He worked nights at the student paper's layout desk, so between deadlines, he biked across campus, sniffing for buttery aromas, asking questions so politely that baristas leaned over counters to show him reorder invoices. Each path dissolved in shrugging shoulders. After a week, his notepad overflowed with dead ends, yet he woke each morning tingling with the chase. Addison noticed the ripple effect, too. Social media filled with the Byron Cupcake Angel hashtags, speculations of a secret society. She worried the attention might spiral until campus security installed cameras, or worse, a marketing firm tried to monetize her small, trembling gifts. She considered stopping altogether. Her anxiety inflated every time she cracked an egg, as if someone lurked outside the rear bakery door, ready to slap on handcuffs for unlicensed generosity. But then she reread the latest anonymous message posted under a cupcake photo. "Whoever you are, I was going to skip class today. Your note reminded me to keep trying." Addison's hand settled. She lined tins with rainbow wrappers and thought, one more drop in the bucket. She planned a Tuesday dawn drop at the art building, where students pulled all-nighters constructing installs. Each cupcake would hide a custard core scented with cardamom and honey. The tag read, "Your art matters, even if they don't get it." She drove her dented hatchback to the delivery point, parked near the loading dock, and stepped into the chill. Fog blurred the sodium lights. No one was around. She set the pastry box on a metal bench, took 3 steps back, then heard a click. A camera shutter. Flash dimmed into the mist, revealing a silhouette. Panic ricocheted through Addison's limbs. She spun, almost sprinted, but the figure raised empty palms. "Wait, please," a voice called. "I'm not campus police. I just want to talk." She hesitated. The voice sounded young, earnest, out of breath. Noah lowered his DSLR, heart hammering. After 2 weeks of staking out likely spots, he'd finally glimpsed a hooded person holding a bakery box at 5:47 a.m. Their profile was lost in shadow, but he could tell by the tense angle of their shoulders they were poised to bolt. He cursed his instinct to grab evidence first, and words second. "I'm Noah," he tried again, softer. "I write for the Chronicle. I swear I won't publish anything you don't approve." The stranger shifted weight. The fog swallowed seconds. Then they turned and ran. Addison didn't remember starting the car, only the slam of her door at home. She paced the kitchen so long that sunrise tinted the walls. She imagined the headline, "Cupcake Culprit Exposed." She pictured reporters mispronouncing her name, classmates whispering. She wouldn't survive that glare. She sank to the floor, hugging her knees until the panic attack ebbed. When she looked up, she was late for work. Frosting drying in the piping bag she'd abandoned on the counter. At the journalism lab, Noah scrubbed sleep out of his eyes over an untouched latte. His editor wanted a draft, but he couldn't even list the baker's pronouns. "Did you get a face?" the editor pressed. Noah shook his head. "I scared them. They're camera shy in the extreme." The editor sighed. "If you can't secure an interview, pivot the angle to community reaction." Noah imagined printing a half story that reduced the baker to a footnote. The idea felt wrong. He asked for 48 more hours. While the investigation stalled, the cupcakes stopped. For 3 days, The campus woke to nothing on benches or in planters. The silence grew heavy. Student health counselors noticed an uptick in visits. A normally sarcastic economics major tweeted, "We didn't know how much we needed those cupcakes until they were gone." Reading that, Addison's gut twisted. She hadn't meant to take something away. She'd only tried to protect herself. But perhaps there was a middle path. Friday at 3 a.m., she iced a batch of vanilla bean cupcakes, each swirled in gradient blues like late evening sky. The tag simply said, "I'm still here." She drove to the journalism building. If the persistent reporter wanted clues, she'd give him one on his own doorstep and see what he did with fragile trust. Noah's shift in the layout room ended at 4. He trudged downstairs, backpack bumping his spine, and nearly stepped on the bakery box glowing under the vestibule light. The smell of vanilla curled upward like a beckoning finger. His chest fluttered. Beside the box lay a second card addressed, "To Noah." He sank onto the cool floor and unfolded it. "I was frightened. I'm sorry I ran. I'm not looking for publicity, but I know you're trying to tell a story. And maybe the story matters. Meet me behind Dawnlight Bakery tomorrow night at 11. No photos, no entourage, just talk." His throat tightened. Dawnlight. The name rang a bell. He'd eaten their cinnamon rolls during orientation week. He read the note again, as though expecting it to dissolve. Then he gathered the cupcakes, locked them in the faculty refrigerator with a post-it respectfully, "Do not steal," and texted his editor one sentence. Interview scheduled. The next night, Noah waited in the alley behind the bakery. Flowery air drifted from ventilation fans. 11 o'clock came and went. At 11:07, a shadow detached from the doorway. He saw a woman of maybe 24. Brown hair stuck to her forehead, dusted white. Freckles peppered cheekbones, pinched with apprehension. She clutched a Tupperware like a shield. "Hi," she whispered. "I'm Addison." Noah half raised his phone in greeting, then tucked it away to prove he wasn't recording. "Thank you for coming." Addison offered a jittery smile. "I brought samples. Habit." She opened the container. The cupcakes were plain, no frosting, no hidden messages, naked truth. They smelled of brown butter. They stood in pool hall silence until Noah asked, "Why cupcakes?" Addison exhaled as if releasing years of second-guessing. "Words alone scare me. When I try to say nice things, my voice trembles, and people look uncomfortable, or they brush it off. Baking feels safer. I put the word somewhere sweet, so they'll get swallowed whole before doubt can argue with them." Noah nodded, chewing that over. "And why the secrecy?" "Anxiety," she answered simply. "The idea of strangers thanking me. I can't. It's easier when they thank nobody." He considered his list of interview questions, decided to toss them. "May I tell the campus who you are?" Addison's shoulders jerked. "I don't think I could walk across the quad if everyone knew." She hugged her container. "But maybe they don't need a name. Maybe they just need to know someone out there cares." Noah listened to the low hum of refrigeration units. He thought of the trending hashtag, the way people had bonded, how kindness had become communal rather than transactional. "What if the article focuses on that impact," he said slowly, "and keeps you anonymous? We could call you the Night Baker. I'd still like to include your voice, your reasons. We can quote you without revealing details that trace back." Addison bit her lip. "You'd do that?" "It's your story," Noah said. "I only get to tell it." She looked away, fighting a smile that threatened to escape. Tears slicked her lashes. "Okay." They sat on a milk crate in an upturned flower bucket while she talked. Not the neat bullet points of a press release, but the messy path. Dropping out, therapy she quit too early. The solace of standing mixer thunder. The first time she saw strangers hugging over her cupcakes. Noah scribbled, The journalist and the woman with fragile confidence forming an island of trust behind dumpsters, smelling of yeast and sugar. When he finished, he read back select quotes. Let her veto any that felt too raw. She surprised him by keeping almost all. Maybe, she murmured, if someone like me reads this, they'll know you can help without being the loudest person in the room. The piece ran Monday morning. Top banner on the Chronicle's website, Mystery Cupcake Angel Speaks. How anonymous kindness sweetened campus life. Noah's prose focused on small tendernesses, on a baker who hoped to seed the landscape with tiny proofs that goodness exists. He described the shift worker measuring courage in grams, omitted her name, photo, workplace. Instead, he embedded her permission slip. You don't need applause to make a difference. The response stunned even Noah. Comments poured in. Students offering to start their own secret acts. Professors pledging funds for a mental health cupcake fund. Noah double-checked with Addison. She politely declined money, but suggested donating to the campus food pantry. Local radio picked up the story, praising anonymous philanthropy. Yet, despite the buzz, no paparazzi staked out Dawnlight Bakery. Noah had omitted too many specifics. Addison's world remained intact. Still, change slipped through the cracks. One afternoon, while she restocked sugars, a co-worker remarked offhandedly, "Saw that article about the night baker. Cool person." Addison's pulse spiked, but the co-worker never looked up, never guessed. It felt like being seen without the usual burn. Weeks passed. Cupcakes returned to benches and windowsills. Orange cream for midterms. Maple pecan when the leaves turned copper. Each carried a printed tag now, courtesy of Noah's graphic design friend, bearing the emblem of a tiny whisk shaped like a heart. Sometimes Addison left an extra cupcake inside Noah's campus mailbox. No note necessary. Sometimes Noah replied with a folded index card listing one beautiful sentence he'd overheard that day. They didn't meet often. When they did, it was quiet coffee on a rooftop, no pressure to fill every silence. He learned to recognize the moment her gaze drifted toward exit routes and would switch topics to favorite spices. She learned that his confidence on the page masked loneliness after his father's death and would slip him chocolate espresso cupcakes on anniversaries. Winter arrived, brittle and bright. A student slipped on black ice, sprained an ankle, and found herself crying more from final stress than pain. Until a stranger rushed out of the library, pressed a salted caramel cupcake into her hand, and whispered, "You've survived every hard day so far." She never learned the stranger's name, which was fine. The sweetness lingered. One night in February, Addison invited Noah to the kitchen itself. Hairnet sagging, she supervised while he filled liners, correcting his grip with gentle taps. Flour floated like snow in yellow fluorescent light. Around 3 a.m., they watched 36 cupcakes rise through the oven window, domes glowing. "Do you ever wish you could hand these out in person?" Noah asked. Addison considered. "Maybe someday. Not yet, but I'm practicing." She nudged his shoulder. "You know, talking to a journalist is advanced public speaking." He laughed. "You're doing great." Steam wafted when she opened the oven. The scent was overwhelming. She transferred cakes to a cooling rack, then stepped back, wiping her forehead with a sleeved arm. "They're yours to frost," she declared. "No pressure, but everyone on campus will judge you silently." Noah picked up a piping bag and squeezed a shaky swirl. "I work better with words," he apologized. "Cupcakes are just another form of language," she said, guiding his hand to center the spiral. Her fingers were warm through the thin glove, steadying his wobbly attempt. For once, Addison wasn't the one shaking. Outside, dawn seeped pink along the horizon. Soon students would bustle, the quad would roar, and Addison's gifts would disperse like sparks. But in the hushed interval before day, two people stood shoulder to shoulder, writing encouragement in buttercream, grateful for the way small kindness had become large enough to hold them both.